What's going on, everybody? I wanted to talk Elon Musk, some Doge, some federal government cuts we're seeing, some of the impacts, and huge caveat right here off the rip, but we're seeing millions of dollars, billions of dollars of cuts coming from this Department of Government Efficiency. If you don't know what it is, I don't know, maybe you've been living under a rock. This thing that Elon is heading up for the Trump administration, it's basically a advisory group. They are not, as far as I understand it, a government. They have access to government information, but they are not a government entity. He's not elected, obviously. Elon isn't, and it's all off appointment, off Trump. So their stated goal, obviously, is in the name: get the government to be operating more efficiently, cut the fat that is our federal government, and trim some of that up, save some money where we can save it. Depending on what side of the political aisle you're on, maybe you have a predisposition on what this is, as far as just because it's Elon and Trump doing it, that it's bad, or you're with Trump, you like it, whatever. I'm definitely more in the camp of I like the idea of it in concept, obviously. And like I said, the caveat is they're cutting all this money. We're not going to see the effects. You're not going to cut a couple $1 billion from our federal spending and see the effects overnight for the most part. We have seen some, the U.S. aid thing. I don't know if you've heard about that. I'll get into that a little bit later. But these effects are kind of going to take a while, I think, to percolate through the system. The federal government's so big and they spend so much money. It's quite literally incomprehensible to most people. Like, we're talking, I believe the federal, but what was it? I wrote it down somewhere. I think it was like $6.7 trillion in 2024 is what we spent. Most people, if you use the word trillion, they know the word, obviously, but most people can't comprehend the concept of a billion, let alone a trillion. We're getting into numbers so big, legitimately some people's mind can't handle it. And it kind of works out in their favor, because once you talk about money and numbers so big, people are just kind of like, whatever. Or if you're talking hundreds of millions of dollars even, it's just kind of like you lose people in the weeds kind of on it. I actually saw that today on Twitter somewhere. They were looking at cutting the commerce protection, like what am I trying to say? The protection agency, the Consumer Protection Agency, I think is what it's called. Basically, their stated goal is in their name is to protect consumers, which obviously sounds good, but that shouldn't stop anybody, in my mind, from getting audited. I don't care what you say you do. How about we see where you're spending the money and see how it works out, how it shakes out, how much the top people in your agency are getting paid, and where all this money is getting routed to, and then we'll decide if you're a net good or a net bad for the taxpayer that's funding all this. And they were like, it's some $700 and some million is their operating budget, or that's what they have in their coffers as of right now that their funding's been cut. They still have $700 and some million. And the guy responded to Elon's tweet talking about cutting this funding, and he was like, great, you can give $2 back to every American taxpayer. And he's not wrong. Like, that's the math. That's how it works out. There's so many people in the United States, technically. He's wrong in the sense there's not 350 million taxpayers in the United States. But whatever. Even if it's 150 million, you get $4. Whatever. However you want to work the math, it doesn't really matter. It's nearly inconsequential amount of money for most people when you word it like that. And he's not wrong. It's fair to say that. You can say that if you want. The problem is these things add up. The Consumer Protection Agency is probably the smallest piece of this puzzle. They were going after USAID, obviously they named it that because it sounds like a good thing, but once again, just because it sounds like something good, a positive does not mean it's a positive. Sounds like they're wasting money all over left and right. And these are like small players in the long run, really. We're talking billions of dollars, but like I said, if the federal budget's trillions of dollars, the big spenders in our federal government are interest on the debt, which is crazy high right now. I think we outpaced defense last year. Defense, and then the social programs, Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, all that. Those eat the majority of the budget, and then everything else is is subsequential to that. It's smaller pieces of the pie. As of right now, Doge has claimed they've cut $1 billion in spending per day off the federal budget or spending. So, I mean, $365 billion in a year saved is what they're claiming as of right now with the current cuts. I'm interested, like I said, to see what the cuts actually result in the long run, and what the effects are, good or bad. I just want to see how it works out, how things shake out, because in my mind, we can cut a lot of this the federal spending, and federal government has been bloated for a long time. So I think we can trim it back and everything will be fine. But that remains to be seen. I don't think you can really make a decisive call on that as of right now. They've cut $1 billion. They want to cut up to $3 to $4 billion is their goal. So they got to quadruple what they've cut as of right now. The military budget, I think, is a huge thing they're going to look at. They have to look into it because the amount of money we spend on our military is just crazy. The popular stat, I don't know if it's true anymore off the top of my head, but it was we spend in our military budget more money than the next 10 countries combined, and we're allies with like 8 or 9 of them. So I think Russia and China are in the top 10, but we spend more money than all of them combined, and the rest are allies. So Germany, the UK, France, whatever. Tons of money. I mean, tons and tons. Like I said, 6.7 trillion. If you can wrap your head around trillions, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. And if not, I mean, we spend more money than we have anyway, but that's a whole nother conversation as it is. Doge is kind of, they're really getting in the weeds now. I know they're trying to get access to the U.S. Treasury information and their data. They're getting heavy pushback on this. I think they may have gotten in at this point. People are complaining about Elon having access to our social security numbers and things like this, and it's like, I mean, I get the criticism, I guess, but it's the same thing. What do we get out of it? Is there a net benefit at the end if Elon seized my social security number? I don't give a shit. Like, what are you gonna do? Take my identity and take debt out in my name? I guess you can have my student loans. Like, nothing's gonna happen really. Like, I don't think that's gonna go anywhere. And if you pay any attention, I mean, there's huge companies that get hacked all the time. I believe there was a medical company. I don't want to disparage anybody's name on here, especially if I'm going to be wrong, but one of the large healthcare providers in the United States was literally hacked, and all your medical data and your payment information was taken. This happens all the time. I know the city of Columbus, where I live here in Ohio, the capital city, obviously down here in Columbus, the city itself, like the municipality, was hacked off like a phishing scam, and they got into their like bank. They were getting into everything that the city had access to. So this is not uncommon. And so if somebody wants to complain about Elon getting the social security number, hey, that's fine. But if some benefit comes out of it, I don't care if Elon sees my social security number or the 20-year-olds that he has working for him. I don't care. It's literally all results. I don't care about anything else. Make something good happen, and I will praise it. You mess it up, you ruin it, I will criticize it. That's how it should be. I think it doesn't matter. I don't care what political side you're on, one way or the other. Just give me some damn results. That's all I care about. Enough talk, no more talk. Just make it happen, and we'll judge you off what happens. Actions over words, that's all that matters. Like I said, the U.S. aid thing, that got shut down. I mean, there's all kinds of craziness. First rule of the internet, I would say apply this pretty heavily to this, because this is speculation / unconfirmed, but there's all these crazy stories coming out of the USAID thing being shut down. It was confirmed that they're funding newspapers, news outlets, basically federally funding, like the New York Times was getting money, Politico was getting money. These huge publications are getting money from the federal government. I don't care if it's $400,000 or $4 million. The federal government shouldn't be paying newspapers, period. I don't care if it's subscription-based, whatever. Why is the federal government paying for news subscriptions? Shouldn't matter. Like, unless your job directly relates to it, I guess. I don't know. I don't know how they end up spending. I think they were spending something like, I think the Politico one was like $400,000 a month was going to Politico for subscriptions. How? Who is spending that much money on online newspaper subscription at this point? But some of the crazier stuff, like I said, this is either unconfirmed or just I mean, one-off craziness. $17 million in tax policy advice to Libya. And I think some of these are obviously being misconstrued to kind of push the agenda. Like, I'm not going to be completely unquestioning on this because I understand the federal government fucks up a lot. And they do a lot of crazy stuff. But some of these are just so crazy. The big story was the $50 million for condoms in Gaza. In reality, was it condoms? No, I don't think it was. I think the real story is something more along the lines of reproductive health care in Gaza or something like that, and they're just using condoms as a catch-all. Nobody's spending $50 million on condoms, or it's the most blatant money laundering scheme of all time, and if they can't figure it out, then what are they even doing? I don't think that's the case, obviously. Like I said, it's still bad. I don't think we should be paying $50 million for reproductive health care in Gaza. That's not a good use of United States tax dollars. But, like I said, just give me the facts. We don't need to twist the narrative as much as possible. I just saw Timmy Pool was talking about something where he's talking about $10 million for giving mice, making mice trans or some shit. And it's like, just stop with this stupid shit. They were giving mice hormone therapy. They're not, whether they're trying to trans the mice, I don't know. But maybe they're just studying the effects of the hormones on the mice. Also, not a good use, I don't think, of $10 million. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but just tell the people what it is. You don't need to sensationalize everything. And honestly, it gets tiring to hear somebody talk like that all the time, where they just like exaggerate and they just jump to the worst conclusion possible. It's kind of annoying, honestly. Trump signed an executive order as part of this Doge thing. They looked into this, I guess. I don't know if Doge necessarily had a full hand in on it, but as a spending cut, they're supposedly going to quit making pennies, which, I mean, who uses pennies anymore? I don't know about you, random person watching this, if you're watching. Do you even have change in your car? Do I have change? I got quarters and dimes in here, and I don't even know where they came from. And I haven't pulled one out of that center console. I don't know if in the entire time I've ever owned this car. So 3 years, I don't know if I've used a quarter out of there. I'm sure I have, but nobody's using pennies. People don't really use change anymore even. Cash is even like low on the totem pole at this point. So do we really need pennies? And the whole reason was 1 penny is worth 1 cent. Everybody knows that. It costs the federal government 3 cents to make each penny. So we just lose 2 cents on every penny produced. Why the fuck are we doing that? I mean, because they're coated in copper, I guess. I mean, they're not full copper anymore. They're plated in copper. But still, it costs us 300% the value of what the thing is to create it. And that's just the epitome of government waste right there. Like, of course the government's spending money on things just asinine. It makes no sense. And I mean, honestly, I don't know who can disagree with the fact of phasing pennies out if it costs us more to make them than they're worth. It's just crazy. And kind of just wrap it up here. I know, like I said, I think they're going to look into the Department of Defense. I hope they do. That should be their main focus, in my opinion. If they don't, honestly, that'll be a huge letdown, and I would be pretty disappointed. There's talk of them going after the Department of Education. Trump wants to end the Department of Education. I'm sure you've heard that if you're looking into any news-related things. My opinion on that, undeveloped, I would say. I don't know. It would be another thing. I would just have to see how it goes. I don't know. America, in general, as far as I understand it, is performing poorly compared to everyone else. Everything's getting a little tough here in America as far as how educated our population is. It's not looking very great, and I think that's obviously a negative, pretty obvious negative. You want people to be smart. You want the people in your country, in your population, to be educated. Whether the Department of Education is doing a good job of that, I would say probably not. I mean, COVID obviously had a huge hand. You can't discount that. But if everybody is performing worse and worse on these tests, and our school system is slacking and falling further and further behind the rest of the world, something needs to change. Whether you cut the whole department, I don't know about that, and leave it to the states, we'll just have to see. I don't know. I'm sure some states that would just plummet. I don't know. These poorer states. I mean, Ohio's not top state as far as like the amount of money that comes out of Ohio, but it's at least middle of the pack or upper. in the top portion. We'll just have to see, honestly. But some of these states like West Virginia, Alabama, Mississippi, I've heard people talking. Who knows what they would do as far as education? Hopefully, they would lean in heavily and hopefully push to have their population educated to a higher degree, and then maybe that creates some economic surplus in their state and gets them something positive out of this education. That's really what you should be looking for, in my opinion. It makes perfect sense. And like I said, maybe to wrap it up, the federal worker thing I talked about in a separate video the other day, we were talking then 20,000 people had accepted the buyout program that Trump has offered. Whether this goes through or not is still up in the air. It's in the courts now. They're obviously going to sue. Everything in the government comes with lawsuits. But as of right now, or yesterday, I guess is more accurate, 65,000 federal employees have accepted the buyout. So that's not it's in the grand scheme, it's not that much. But 65,000 is a lot of people, and that means those people are either looking for jobs or they retire early. I don't know what's going to happen. We'll just have to see. But I don't think there's negligible impact in that. I think that's a big deal, honestly. So we'll see what happens. Like I said, I'm going to try to get back to making videos every day. Yesterday, I got people calling me on my way home, so fucking up my YouTube video time in the car. But I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. If you got some out of the video, like it, subscribe, come back for more. We'll be here every day of the week. And if you didn't, dislike it. Tell me why. Later on.